Sanibona, ngaphambi singene kwivideo namuhla, ngithi angithathe lethuba ngibonge isupport nothando enikhombise lona lingaphezu kokucabanga kwethu. Siyacela niqhubeke nisisupport njalo ngokubuka amavideo ethu, ungakhohlwa ukukhomenta, ushare, ulike. Siyafisa ukuzwa umbono wakho. Sicela ke singene kwivideo namuhla. Kule video namuhla ngifisa sike sibheke lolu daba ebelikhulunywa lapha eParliament oluthinta unemployment rate. Emavikini adlule siyakhumbula ukuthi abe-ANC bathi akuyona icrisis indaba ye-unemployment rate ukuthi ibe 42%. So sifisa ukuthi sizwe ukuthi ngesikhathi kukhulunywa indaba ye-unemployment kuthiweni. Ngaphambi mangena lapho ngicela uzwe la.
Some of the issues we can no longer blame apartheid. From 1994, the black government was ushered in, and if we failed for the past 30 years, we only have ourselves to blame.
La mazwi amazwi abaluleke kakhulu asho abe Black Business Council ukuthi isikhathi sokublame apartheid asisekho. Sekuphela 30 years. Inkinga nje nokuthi zibe ngcono ziya ngokwanda. Kodwa zandela abantu abahluphekile nabangekho politically connected. Azandeli wonke umuntu. Nansi into efika ibe buhlungu ke ngeSouth Africa yethu ekhululekile. So ngaphambi ngicapha nama-video ngiyafisa silibheke lolu daba. Maningana ke ama-video ngizocaphuna. Ngicabanga ukuthi azobe ekhuluma into eyodwa. Ngizocaphuna ubaba uMwelethi Mbeki manje ekhuluma ukuthi abeke naye ngokwakhe bese sidlulela kokushiwo eParliament.
We got our inequality in South Africa by creating artificial scarcity of skills, of skilled people, of professionals, of artisans. That's what's at the bottom of the inequality of South Africa. In the 19th century and in the 20th century, there was a creation of scarcity by restricting professions to whites only.
Sure.
So that created an artificial scarcity of skills and of professionals. So their salaries, those who created that artificial scarcity, their salaries shot through the roof because they were scarce. What has happened after democracy, this system has continued, the system of continued artificial scarcity. Our education system hasn't been changed to mass produce skilled people. If you look at the Asians, Asia mass produces skilled people. That's why Asia is more equal. China every year produces 600,000 engineers. So there's no premium on being a skilled person. In South Africa, there's a huge premium because there are very few of you. Our education system suppresses the production of skilled people.
Kunamasitha la eSouth Africa onhloso yawo fanele train abantu. Kodwa awayenzi lonto kunalokho ingane zama-politicians zisebenza kuwo lamasitha. Zikwazi ukuba nemali ngenxa ukuthi abazali bazo bakwipolitiki. Inte ANC government ANC akwazile ukuyenza successfully ukuthi enze i-youth yase-South Africa ibe uneducated, ibe unemployed, iphinde ibe unemployable. Ngoba amathuba kawekho. Noma bekufundwe ezikoleni akunama skills. Into government wethu ayenzile ngoba abanendaba bona nezingane zabo ba right. Lesihloko njalo mafuna ngikhulume ngaso ngiba emotional ngoba sisihloko esibhlungu esenzeke ezweni lethu lapho khona abaphethe they are not willing ukuthi bashintshe isimo sabantu because there is no political will. Into ebalekile nje ukuthi bona nemndeni yabo badle nalabo abangabangani babo badle. Inkinga esinayo nje ileyo. Ngizocaphuna usisi lo engizomcaphuna ngimazi bani igama lakhe we-MK Party. Sizwe ngesikhathi kuyi-debate ukuthi yena ubeke wathini. Emveni kwalapho siphume kuye siye kuKhalne House lo we-EFF. Mhlambe sizoyivala ivideo, mhlambe sizoya kuzungula kangazi. Ukuthi akusona isihloko esilula kimi singiphatha kabi lesi se-unemployment ngoba kimi ibukeka njengento yamabomu. bakhona abantu abanamandla ukusiguqula isimo kodwa abenzi lutho. Nokuzwa labantu be-ANC bekhuluma kanje.
Let us not mask our difficulties. Let us not tell our people lies. Let us tell it as it is. Unemployment is 41% and it includes people who are discouraged.
Let's leave out this expanded explanation of unemployment in the country, because we don't know what those people are doing.
But who decides not to work? There are homemakers there who prefer not to work. Yeah. There are people who have not actively gone to seek an employment. So you cannot even include those people. If you put that 9%, it means you are also putting people who prefer. There are housewives, housemen, husbands.
I don't know if this committee should now spit in those people's faces and say, yeah, Lena, you were unemployed and now you are discouraged and so on, and we no longer count you. No, Chair, I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right if those people are listening now at home that we are about to say that they don't matter, they should not be in that statistic, they should not be part of the problem that needs to be solved. The problem that needs to be solved is a 41% problem, Chair. It's not less than 41%. And if we reduce it, because we don't want to make it look like a crisis, even at 32%, it's a crisis.
For no, informal sector is not a crisis. It's not. And that is not there. There is no crisis in this country. Yes, we've got challenges, but it's not a crisis.
You find 3.5 million people who are discouraged job seekers because they've been looking forever. And they are now hopeless. They're discouraged, but that doesn't make them employed. You leave the village, you don't have anything. You have to go to town to look for work. When you get to town, you must eat, you must pay electricity, you must pay rent, you end up going back to the village because you can't sustain being in town and you're not working.
Honorable Makuela, Honorable Scott.
Honorable Chairperson, when Stats SA publishes their stats, they take out the narrow definition, which is the 32.9%. And they further indicate that what makes them exclude the expanded definition, because the expanded definition takes into account somebody who is of the age of who can work but who decides not to work. There are homemakers there who prefer not to work. Yeah. There are people who have not actively gone to seek an employment. So you cannot even include those people. If you put that 9%, it means you are also putting people who prefer. There are housewives, housemen, husbands who prefer not, but they are within the age limit of a person that is defined to be between the age of 16 and 65, who is a person that can be in the active work. So if we say we are going to include all that, we are going to miss the mark. We can use it for our own politicking and arguing and think that we want to project a crisis in the country, which is not correct, and it is not something that we should be pursuing. But we should be sticking to what the official statistics are, and the official statistics are the 32.9%.
Sake sakhuluma ngalesihloko ngaphambilini, specifically le video engiqeda kuyifaka. Laphi ANC ithi akusi crisis ukuthi unemployment rate ingaka eSouth Africa. Akuyona crisis. Kukhuluma someone ohola more than 1.4 million per year. Bahola more than 100,000 per month. Uthi akuyona crisis. Yabona lesithombe ngisifake lo sibona ku screen sakho sichaza ANC ngendlela engakhona. Abantu abayisurroundile babulawa indlala. Idla yodwa. Yabona lo muntu lo representa bonke abantu be-ANC. Idla yodwa i-ANC. Abantu abayisurrounded nabayivotelayo balambile. Uzathi akuyona icrisis indaba unemployment. Uthi abantu abasebenzi. Ukhona uvela umuntu ovela nje asukele kade yena akafuna imisebenzi. Ubukhona na kwalo msebenzi. Okokuqala i-ANC inepolicy ethi kuqashwa abantu abana 18 ukuya ku 35. From 36 years funa wenze njani? Funeka wenze njani? Funeka uyephi? Asidluleke silwelo daba nebelikhulunywa eParliament. Ingiphatha kabi nje lento ekhulunywayo.
Yeah, it's a sabotage. Yeah, it is. Yeah. I can see the minister is trying to persuade me. Unfortunately, yeah, Honorable House Chair, honorable members, before we even debate the budget and bureaucratic line items, let us confront a brutal human truth. Right now, as I stand here, there are more than 11 million South Africans without work. Picture this: if every unemployed person in this country stood in a line, shoulder to shoulder, that line would stretch from Johannesburg all the way to Cairo and back again. These are not just the numbers on a statistic sheet. These are mothers skipping meals for their children and can eat. Fathers waking up at 4 o'clock to stand on the roadside hoping someone will pick them up for a day's work. But most days, they return home empty-handed and humiliated. And young people, the very hope, promise, of this nation, are now called the lost generation. They are graduates holding degrees in other one hand and rejected letters on the other hand. This is the real state of our nation. I rise today on behalf of the Umkhonto weSizwe Party to reject the budget vote 31 on the Department of Employment and Labor for 2025 and 2026 financial year. South Africa, in the grip of deep and prolonged unemployed crisis, over 32% of our people are jobless, with youth unemployment even higher. Yet the report before us is a slap in their face of working class. It is filled with lofty promises, fancy slogans, and bureaucratic sugar-coated, but it does nothing to heal the wounds of the unemployed. Let's talk about the so-called new employment mandate. It is nothing more than a tired PR exercise. There is no serious plan to localize industry, no plan to rebuild the manufacturing, no plan to drive rural industrialization. How do we tell the people in the communities without running water to apply for jobs online? That is not transformation, that is an insult. The department is obsessed with the digitalization, imagining that every South African lives in Sandton with fiber internet and backup generation. Millions do not even have electricity, let alone data. This digital-only approach has become a new system of exclusion, another gatekeeping tool against the poor. And what about the billions being sunk into so-called labor activation program? 10 billion pumped into schemes that are nothing more than cash cow for connected elites, ghost beneficiaries, fake training, fraudulent tenders. These are not rumors, they are documented facts. Let us not forget the Petuho Security Company submitted fake documents to win tenders and received 140 million from another department, verified by the same department, now asking us to trust them with billions more. How can we sign off on budgets where the fox is guarding the hen house? Meanwhile, the unemployment insurance and compensation fund stockpiles surplus instead of helping workers put food on their table. Our people are forced to watch from the sidelines while their supposed safety nets become vaults for bureaucratic hoarding. Then, honorable members, there is the silent sabotage of our labor market by illegal foreign nationals. Let me be clear, this is not a xenophobia, this is economic sabotage. Our citizens are displaced on farms, in kitchens, and construction sites, and in retail, not because they lack skills, but because they refuse to work for starvation wages. Employers prefer undocumented workers precisely because they can be exploited without consequences. Where is the department Nowhere. No regulations, no enforcement, no accountability. Our own people are sidelined in their motherland. Even our public servants, the nurses, the teachers, the municipal workers, are pushed beyond their limits, paid peanuts, and forced into a recycled democratization. They become easy prey for petty corruption, and those who can live to do so. The brain drain bleeds this country of skills we invested in with taxpayers' money. What is the department's grand plan? To beg the private sector for partnership? We have been sold this neoliberal fairy tale since 1994, and it has failed us miserable. We cannot partner our way out of poverty. We cannot outsource our justice. Honorable Chair, our people do not want handouts. They want work, dignity, opportunity, real empowerment. The Umkhonto weSizwe Party stands for a new model, one that puts South Africans first in their sector, one that builds industries locally and creates real jobs, not empty slogans, one that stops treating workers as disposable commodities and starts treating them as citizens deserving of respect and fair wages, one that rejects the capture of public funds by politically connected parasites. One that rejects the capture of public funds by politically connected parasites. The Freedom Charter declares the people shall share in the country's wealth. Exactly. Today, that promise is a sick joke. The ANC, as you say, dares to involve the Charter while presiding over economic apartheid against its own people. We say enough is enough. We reject the budget vote. We reject the lies. We reject the continued betrayal of the working class. Thank you very much. And thank you for being quiet, not howling.
Ngale kokubambelela ile video mayiza ngasekugcineni kuvela lo mama lo wathi akusi crisis, ukhona abantu nje unemployment akusinkinga ngoba kunabantu abakhetha ukuhlala bangawufuni umsebenzi ezifu ukhona lo msebenzi. Asidlulele phambili sezuthi uthini uKhalne House bese siyayivala le video.
Honorable House Chairperson, I rise today to address the 2025-26 budget allocation for the Department of Employment and Labour, a department whose name promises hope but delivers little in the face of South Africa's crippling unemployment crisis. The addition of employment to its title creates a misleading impression that this department is equipped to create jobs. Let us be clear, it has neither the capacity nor the tools to do so. A name change does not conjure jobs out of the thin air. To ground this debate, let us confront the stark reality. South Africa has 25 million people who are ready, capable, and willing to work. Yet only 16.7 million are employed across the formal sector, informal sector, agriculture, and private households. This leaves 8.2 million unemployed and over 3.5 million discouraged work seekers who have given up hope. Combined, more than 12 million South Africans are excluded from the economy. The majority are young people, women and people living with disabilities, groups systematically marginalized and left behind. It is shameful that some, including members of the former liberation movement, have the audacity to claim South Africa does not have an unemployment crisis. Such statements are not only ignorant, but an insult to the millions who wake up daily with no prospects. Equally out of touch is the department's claim that it will create 2 million work opportunities by 2030. What exactly is a work opportunity? The term is vague and the timeline is distant. Meanwhile, we lost 290,000 jobs in the last quarter alone, with the projections from economic analysts suggesting further losses in 2025 due to sluggish growth and global uncertainties. The department's budget, marred by cuts and below inflation increases, cannot address this crisis. For a decade, we have called for more labor inspectors to enforce compliance with labor laws. Yet initiatives like Project 20K, which promises 20,000 inspectors across provinces, remain a hollow gimmick with no funding or implementation plan. Workers in retail, hospitality, aviation, and factories face rampant exploitation, paid in tips, working grueling hours, and denied benefits. Many earn below the national minimum wage of 27.58 Rand per hour. Yet inspectors are nowhere to be found. The International Labour Organization recommends one inspector per 10,000 workers. But South Africa's ratio is closer to 1 per 30,000, leaving workers vulnerable. The minister's budget speech was a litany of complaints about funding constraints, offering no solutions. High vacancy rates, raised repeatedly in committee meetings, remain unaddressed. The CCCMA, which we have urged to expand its role in preventing disputes and promoting social stability, is hamstrung by budget cuts and cannot even fulfill its mandate. Netlag faces a 13% budget reduction over the medium term, further eroding its ability to foster dialogue between labor, business, and government. The Compensation Fund and Unemployment Insurance Fund are in disarray. Mismanagement and theft during COVID-19 exposed their vulnerabilities, yet restructuring efforts remain stagnant. Reports from the Auditor General highlight persistent governance failures, with senior managers implicated in conflicts of interest. Workers who rely on these funds for injury compensation or unemployment relief are left waiting, their dignity trampled on. This department is in crisis, lacking direction, strategy, or a workable plan. The proposed budget, with its cuts and inadequate increases, will deepen the suffering of South African workers and the unemployed. The economic freedom fighters reject this budget outright. We demand a radical overhaul, increased funding for labor inspections, a fully resourced CCMA, and functional social security systems. Let us honor the 12 million excluded South Africans by rejecting this budget and demanding one that will truly serve the people of South Africa. Thank you.
Dr. Padile Hutla, former statistician, uhlalesha ukuthi ama-policies we-ANC ayijoke. Isizathu esenza ukuthi asho njalo ukuthi if ungena proper plan, ungena ama-time frames, kuyiza ukuplana kwakho ngoba funeka kwazi ukuthi kulandelwa yiphi plan, kuzoqalwa kuphi, kiwe kuphi, kwenziwe ini kanjani. Lokuthi kuvele nestatement nje sithi uzobe secreate imisebenzi ewu2 million by 2029, ungasho ukuthi lo msebenzi uzobe creator kuphi, we-construction, kwe-retail, kuphi, kanjani, ngoba funeka kube naleyo plan ezoguide ukuthi okay siqala la, sisuke la, size la, sisuke la, size la. Kodwa ukungabibikho kwaleyo plan khomisa khona ukuthi zonke lento abayisho benza lento abayisho minyaka yonke. Iminyaka yonke nje, even kwalapho baqhubeke bayodla bona nemindeni yabo. naba-connected abangani babo basala abantu. So kuwo wonke umuntu othanda lezwe, othanda nje izwe lase-South Africa, akasize ayeza ama-local election 2026, asikhiphe i-ANC emandleni. Nansi into ezosilekelela, asikhiphe i-ANC emandleni. Iyona favor enkulu esiyobe siyenzele lezwe, ikusasa lalezwe. Futhi ukukhipha i-ANC emandleni kuzokwenza noma ubani ozophatha azi ukuthi abantu base-South Africa bayawazi amandla abo. Uma ungadilivi bazokukhipha emandleni. ANC ibhensile manje kodwa yenziwa ukuthi iyazi ukuthi abantu base-South Africa abawazi amandla abo. Futhi okunye kwesibili, abantu laba abazi i-apartheid ne-struggle bayancipha. Bayancipha ngempela, so akusekho abantu abazobhetraywa kuthiwa hey ANC yanenzela likhulu bese bethi ya labantu abakhula manje abarelate nalonto le. So i-reality abayibonayo ile yokuthi ANC is failing them. So ngiyabaqhuqhumezela nabasha, noma ngithola ithuba lokukhuluma nabo ngiyabatshela assignment sokhipha i-ANC emandleni. Basekucacile ukuthi abasikhathalele. eSouth Africa ubugebengu busemthethweni as long as uconnected ne-ANC. Ungakwazi ukwenza ubugebengu, ungakwazi ukwenza corruption and ngeke uzujeze ngalokho. Ubani wake waboshwa noma wajeza ngokuthi kwathola ithenda wangawenza umsebenzi? Isiphi isifundo ofuneka sisifunde thina? Funa sifunde nathi ukuthi asijoyineni inhlangano ebusayo, sibe namakhadi, sithola amathenda, sidle imali singawenza umsebenzi. Imigwaqo yethu iqhubeke ibe nama-pothole, impilo zethu zimosheke. Ngeke sikwazi ukuphila endaweni enjalo. Konke-ke kukithi, asivoteni wisely. Mina nawe asidibane kwividiyo elandelayo. Ungasisupport ukujoyina i-membership yale channel, ungasisupport ukusidonate, likhona account kwi-comment ephiniwe.